So joining us this morning is best-selling author, coach Lisa Goldenthal.
Hello and welcome. I'm Lisa G, your host. You're at the top of your game, yet the game is changing faster than ever. Strategies that got you here aren't the ones that'll keep you here. The pressure is relentless, and the fear of obsolescence looms large. That's why I'm here. Welcome to the new podcast series, Disrupted: How to Be Gritty and Unlock Performance in Business, Mindset, Wellness, and Success. She's the CEO of Party Goddess, a nationally acclaimed event planning and catering company. From understated elegance to rock star fabulous, she's known for creating the most talked about parties of the year for A-list clients, ranging from top tier businesses to A-list celebs such as Snoop Dogg, Sofia, Vergara, Britney Spears. She's a top business coach in Los Angeles, an author of But Are You Making Any Money? Praised by Forbes with appearances on various outlets and shows, Fox and Friends, Fox Business, MSNBC, Extra, Good Day LA, Bravo, E, MTV, HGTV, Fox, ABC, all the numbers, all the letters, and the wedding channel. Welcome to the show, Marley Majcher.
Thank you for having me.
It's such a pleasure. I love all the rock star stuff you're up to in the world and how you're now coaching people to have that kind of success. So let's jump into it with some of your top tips for entrepreneurs who maybe aren't making any money.
Right. Well, my first tip is to actually admit that you're not making any money, or at least admit that you're not making as much as you want or you thought you were going to make when you started. Because I find that's kind of the first piece to this whole thing, because there's a billion of us out there, right? We all start thinking, oh my gosh, my boss or whoever's making so much money, I could make so much more if I just did it this way. Why am I, an employee? Well, let me tell you, a lot of times being an employee is more lucrative than having your own company. A lot of times.
A lot.
You are very, very purposeful about it. And so number one is admitting like you're not where you want to be. Number two, though, is saying, hey, listen, I am going to jump in and figure out why. And that takes some digging, and it is not necessary. It's not a particularly hard process, but it's not necessarily a fun process, because what inevitably happens with people I coach is that they get into this and they go, oh my gosh, like, how did I miss that? How did I not realize how much time things were taking? And so the book is called But Are You Making Any Money? But it really boils down to, you're not making any money because you're not making enough money because of how you're spending your time. And it really boils down to, how do you spend your time? So kind of the third piece is deciding to track your time. And that is like, if you want to lose weight, like I have had a trainer before, I've wanted to lose weight. I'm like, she weighs me, the next week I go, I've gained a pound. She's like, what do you do? I'm like, I don't even know. I'm like barely eating. I'm exercising. I have all these things. And then, but when you write it down, you realize, oh shoot, like, yeah, I did have 10 M&Ms, and then I did have a cappuccino, and then, oops, I had another cappuccino, but it was not fat milk, but okay, but milk still has some calories, and you start adding and adding and adding. And the similarities to business are exactly the same. When you are forced to write it down and you're like, okay, Facebook, 9:20 to 9:55. And let's face it, the only reason you got up at 9:55 was because you were actually writing it down, right? And then you go back to like, oh, and then you're texting, and then you're on the, Daily Mail news feed, and then you're on the blah, blah, blah. And when you write that down and you start looking at it, like somebody could send it to me for a couple days, and I'm like, oh, there's your exact problem right there. And like, oh, do you crash after lunch because your productivity just totally went south? So it's a matter of writing it down, and then typically having somebody else look at it and help you course correct, because we cannot see the label from inside the jar. None of us can. We can sort of see the patterns, but then it's like, it still doesn't make as much sense as when somebody else looks at it and says, my God, you're spending this amount of time on activities that are not revenue generating. Right. And usually as entrepreneurs, we're the salespeople and we're the CFOs and we are HR And you have to be very careful, especially in the beginning, that you set your business up to have the sales coming in and you know how you're spending your time, because otherwise you can't possibly be profitable.
Well, I love all those answers because I'm asking for a friend. But for me, I think the analogy between weight loss and tracking your time and tracking your food would really help me personally. I don't know about you guys, but I know it's the shiny object syndrome as an entrepreneur.
Exactly.
When you jump in, I wake up and I'm on LinkedIn, and then do I have to go to Instagram? Do I have to go on Facebook? Are those actually revenue generating activities?
And sometimes they are. Like people say, oh, so I shouldn't be on LinkedIn. I shouldn't. That is not the point.
Right.
The point, though, is to have a plan. And what are you doing on LinkedIn? Or what are you doing on Facebook? Or what are you like? I have this new kind of TikTok passion that I'm sort of developing, but it's specific. I am spending specific amounts of time with a goal in mind, right? Of what do I want to accomplish? And then, by the way, I'm going to give it a certain amount of time to accomplish that goal. And if I don't, I'm going to course correct and reallocate that time. Right. So it's about just being, what are your goals and what's the fastest way to get there? And then subbing out those activities. Because usually by the time somebody asks for help or says, oh, I'm not making the money I want, there's usually a reason, and they can't figure out why, or obviously they, wouldn't need me.
Yeah, no, I love the fact you can't see the label from inside the jar. That's such another great analogy, because accountability is a cornerstone of coaching for me and for any goal, really. I feel like, we all start out in January with like the best of intentions at the same time. Right. 91% of us are failing by February because we're trying to just make too many changes globally all at once without someone holding you accountable with your feet to the fire. Like, what did you do today? Let me see your log. So I love the way you're doing coaching people to track their time. And what about all the success you've had? Like, do you have any tips for our audience about sales and marketing and how we can be like a marketing and sales machine?
Well, of course. I mean, for example, we were talking before the show about how I live in LA. Los Angeles is one of the most saturated markets for event planning, like New York and a couple others. But there's a statistic years ago, which I'm probably way off now, but it was like there's 462,000 or something event plan, like English speaking event planners, right? And that is just, how do you stand out from that? Well, one thing that I suggest with people's sales and marketing plans is to be very purposeful. And so what I did was I realized there's no way I'm going to be able to, if you, I guess, bought more ads at the Super Bowl than somebody else, maybe you could kind of make a dent, but how do you crack the market? And so what I did was I looked at my own life, and I fortunately grew up and went to school with a lot of people who are from very wealthy backgrounds. And the one thing that was hilarious to me was these girls these celebrities, these girls were worth 10 times what these celebrities were worth. Right. And yet all of them at spring break, whatever, you'd have the magazines out, you'd have now you have the apps. What were the celebrities doing? What were they wearing? What was the skin cream? What was the what were the shoes? And I just decided if I could get my way into working with celebrities, that should be my ticket, because it made no sense to me. Why? Just because a celebrity says this is the party planner, does that mean that's the party planner? So you have to be very strategic. And let's say you're not going to go after celebrity clients for whatever reason, but then go after the celebrity in your town. Go after the person who everybody is watching for. Where are they eating? What are they doing? Because those people have influence. And the next tier now, of course, is, influencers, who are famous people in their own right. But you have to be very, very strategic. It goes without saying you have to have an amazing product, an amazing service, and you have to have great customer service, no question. But you have to have some kind of secret sauce, and you have to have a way to come up through the noise. And these days with social media, fortunately it's much easier, than when a lot of us were starting to do it. And you were just like, okay, do I send a press release and hope the newspaper opens their mail that day? Now it's a lot quicker, but you have to have a very specific plan. And then you've got to be like, I'm going to give it X amount of time. Is it working? If not, how do I tweak? And most people just don't have a plan. They don't have a plan and a set of goals and benchmarks that they're going back and forth and actually trying to like modify.
Well, so what if you want to go after these influencers and you want to go after a celebrity to like grow your brand?
Yep. I can
Do
tell
you
you
have
exactly.
any tips for the luxury market or the famous
Totally.
market?
Celebrities, so first thing that I always tell my clients is you cannot put yourself, don't use your own logic a lot of times in business. Sometimes you can, right? But what I mean by that is, let's say you have a high-end or luxury product and you're like, I would never pay that price. Forget about it. People pay prices, ridiculous prices for things. It is irrelevant if you would ever pay the price, right? Like I will pay exorbitant amounts of money to not have to deal with like mundane stuff. Nobody would ever believe that I paid, but I'm like, oh my God, just please take it off my plate. I will do anything. Thank you. Here's the check. See you next week. So to get to first you figure out who is on social media talking about your niche, or whatever product or service you do. Like if you, and I don't mean they're pimping products, but it's a celebrity that you see is flying private all the time, right? Or you always see them with some kind of, their headphones on or whatever, and you're the headphone person. Or the thing is, celebrities love free stuff. And so what you have to do is you have to have your target audience ahead of time, like who's your ideal client. And then you go after specific celebrities that client would relate to, right? So that would influence them. And then you start a campaign. You get to their publicist, you get to their managers. A lot of times, believe it or not, you can find out their home addresses much more easily than you think. People just don't actually try to do it. And you send them your product, and you ask, and you are very specific. Would you consider using it? Or if it's clothes or whatever, you send them a ton of stuff. And you are going to go out of pocket, by the way, number one.
Of course.
And
yeah.
You are going to have plenty of people who are not going to respond to you. But all it takes is one. And then it's the lily pad approach. You get one celebrity to do it, and then that one goes, oh, and then you can be like, XYZ wore this, or
yes.
Then you go next, and ratchet up the list. And that's the way to build your brand or build your press or build anything else. But you go after a specific group with a plan. And what we used to do in the early days is we would send these ridiculous gift certificates. Not only, they were handmade. I would like have them on my wall if I could. They were that beautiful. And let me tell you, it cost a fortune. And I was like, oh my God, when I first started doing this, I was like, what am I doing? But I realized I had to get their attention. And I just showed them that if I was going to have the attention to detail with this, then I must have an attention to detail, just like with trying to plan a party for them, right? Imagine the attention to detail I'd really have if I worked with them. And it worked. As you say, it was a gamble. But once you get in that loop, then what happens is the agent or the publicist, or it's not that big a world.
Yeah.
If you really are if you're really having a target audience, and then it starts to take off. But you have to leverage, this piece has to leverage this piece, has to leverage this piece, because it's that whole thing. And if the tree falls in the forest, did it really fall? Nobody knows. Well, you can be the most fabulous thing in the world. You can be in Time magazine, but if you don't tout that you were in that, then you're not going to get the next magazine if somebody doesn't read Time.
Right. I love it. Well, you are such an amazing example of hard work paying off. And,
yes.
And you're not sitting there waiting for something to like, oh, the stars are going to align.
I wait for nothing. And by the way, I do watch the stars, and I'm watching Mercury's in retrograde right now. It's a miracle that we're still taping this and all these things. But no, at the end of the day, I'm like, I always say to everybody, I'm like, no, I'm not interested. Like, who cares? I don't care. Like, well, that's going to be really hard. Well, I'm like, next. I don't care. Everybody says that. Yes, it's going to be hard. Oh, well, it's also hard being broke. So just get going. But
get going, don't take no for an answer. Anything else?
Never.
Marley Majcher, anything else you want to leave our audience with on how they can crush it and get out of this like hustle around like mentality and just into actually taking action?
Yeah, just create a vision board the old fashioned way on Pinterest if you want, or with magazines, and tear out the boat you want and the island you want to go and visit and see that every single day, and then act as if you already have it. And that's a huge motivator, because our brains then go to sleep thinking, I have this yacht, I have this, like, if you knew the number of things I did it for, but it's just basic goal setting. But you got to know, what do you want first, and then have that be the motivation. I can do it, I can do it, I can do it. Because you can't just do it for 2 days and be like, oh yeah, it's February, now I'm done, I'm bored.
Yeah, no, that I could speak to that. That worked for me. And my problem was always just being attached to a timeline. Like, this is going to happen by this time. But now
Yes.
that I'm looking at my vision board, and I just got engaged, and the ring that I picked out, like in my vision, is on my finger. And
I love that.
It worked. I need to talk to you about all the other stuff. But anyhow, where can people find more of your amazing Marley Majcher stuff?
Well, the book is on Amazon, but are you making any money? They can go to Instagram. If they want to see party stuff, they can follow at the Party Goddess. If they want to get business stuff, we've got a YouTube channel for the Profit Goddess. That's a great one to watch videos and stuff. And then if they want a free little mini course, we have something that's online. It's just called mini.theprofitgoddess.com. And they can go and they can see 4 little videos about kind of how I start the process and walk people through, like, where do I start? How do I price? How do I actually go from where I am now, which is totally confused, to actually, oh, I could do this. I can make some money.
Well, thank you for being a great guest, Marley Majcher.
Thank you for having me. It was really fun.